Welcome to Python with Andrew, where we continue to look at different parts of Python and how you can use it in a practical example. And in the previous video, I looked at the new match statement, which allows us to do things that we've been doing in other languages for a long time. And if you haven't seen that one, quickly zip over to have a look at that, because this one takes it a bit further and says, what else can we do with the match statement? So let's have a look at that. And let me delete this. And I've just put in some code that I had before, which is a basic use of the match statement. So I've taken some input in. I've changed it to lowercase just to make it easy for me. And then depending on the answer, I'm going to do certain things: go, drop, end. So maybe this is a game where we're picking up items as we go along, and we can go north, south, east, or west. So far, so good. And if I run this, nothing fancy. If I enter a command, go, it's going to give me an answer. If I do run it again and drop something, etc. So nothing fancy about that particular one. I could probably put it in a while loop to make it a bit easier, but I just want to keep it nice and simple. So we can extend this a bit further, and let's assume we want the command go north or go south or go east or go west. We can actually take the input as normal. We could split the input, right, and then match it on the split. So in this case, we're going to match a list because we're splitting it, and we're going to call it a place. Instead of saying go somewhere, I'm going to say go to the place. And I haven't changed the other ones yet. I'll change those in a minute, but all I'm doing is matching go place. So let me just work on that one at the moment. And now if I save this one and run it again, oops. And now if I put in go north, it goes north. If I put go south, not only do I have the full direction, but I've put it into a variable, so I can, if I was calling a function, I would actually use that in a function. I'm just calling the print the place there. So let me fix, if I have drop an item, and let me just put in drop an item, and I'm going to do drop item, and end. I better put in that in brackets now. So that means that I'm able to go to a particular place. I can drop a particular item, and I can say end, and this will work quite nicely. So let's have a look and see if it does work. So now let me drop hammer. It says drop hammer. And if I run it again and end, so far so good. If I want to, so that's one difference I can do. If I want to have a number of items, so let's say I just want to go to one place, but I could drop many items at once. I can use star, and star means all the rest of the list will go into that variable item, which is probably should be called items. Let me change that to items, because there's actually going to be many of them, and print out the items. Okay, so now my program will work to go north, go south, go etc. But now I can drop a hammer and nails at the same time. So let me run that again. And now if I drop hammer, it just gives me the hammer as an item. But if I drop hammer, nails, and screws, right, I'm actually able to pick up all the items and pass those into a function, and maybe we do whatever we need to do in our game quite simply. So that's a really, really nice addition to this case statement. So we're not just matching on one word, we're matching on a list, which is nice, and the list can have many items in, and it's matching nice. But there's more. We can do some more. We can actually check that the place actually belongs to a certain item. So let's assume if we have north, south, east, or west, we only want to allow north, south, east, or west. So I can put go place if place in north, south, east, west, okay? So now that'll check not only that I've got go, that's fine, and I've got a place, but the place can only be a certain number. So now if I run this again and I put in go north, it says great, go north. But if I run it again and say go home, right, it will not match that line 7 case, right? And it will say, I don't understand. So if you imagine if I had that in a loop, it would say, please enter it a valid command. Okay, so that's a nice one where I could actually use a variable and a set number of places I want to go to. I could check my item. I could check my item that it's in my bag. Let's say I have a bag that I'm putting all my items in, and I need to say, is the item in the bag? Because I can't drop it if it's not in the bag. So I could do that test there. So a nice couple of additions there. And they read okay. They're not too bad. And one last one that I want to add to this is that if we want to match a couple at once, let's assume we're allowing we can use the OR operator here and have stop. Right, so we could actually have a number of different words that we're allowing the user to use. In this case, end and stop. So when I say end, oops, mistake there. I should go over here and put in end. But now if I do it again and put in stop, it also does end. So you can see that not only does it work for end and stop. So we've taken the basic match statement and we've seen a bit more power that we can do. We can add multiple words to check. We can make sure, so a list of words, and we can check the list of words. We can check that the list is a part of the proper list that we want. So it's really good for checking. And we can have multiple answers and the case statement that works in each one. And all I'm doing, of course, is printing these out, but you could imagine we could write functions that do a lot more in this space here. So that's just a few things that the case statement can do, and I like that a lot. I think the only other point I would make, and that is, and I read this recently, and I think it's a very good hint. We've got to be careful that the order of the case statement does matter, because if we have the likely answer up top, that's going to be evaluated first, and then whatever happens to be done. But if we have the most likely one down the bottom, or towards the bottom, all the others are going to be evaluated first. So that does take extra time. Now, of course, these simple programs, time doesn't make any difference, but you could imagine if we had much more complex tests, etc., we would want to think about the order of the case statement so that we put our most often towards the top, or our least calculated intensive ones towards the top. Okay, so I read that. I think it's a good thing to put in mind. I generally don't focus on how long something's going to take, because I always think computers get faster and faster and that problem goes away. But I think it's also conscious when we are building code that we think about a few things like that as we're going along. Because if we have a choice to make, for example, in my case, if this end statement is the most likely to be done, then it doesn't take much effort to say, I'm going to put that at the top. Seems to take a bit more effort, right? I'm going to put that at the top. And so it doesn't take much effort, and I think it's a good bit of practice. Okay, so that's all there is for the match statement in this video. There are a few other things that you can do with the match statement. I'll let you research that and try that out. This is really, really useful when you're building a program that takes some input. Mine's by text, but it could have been numbers, it could have been clicks on a mouse, etc. And depending on the input, you want to do certain things, much more complex things. So this match concept could be part of your main program, and then it branches off into lots and lots and lots of different examples. I've only done 3 or 4 case statements. You could imagine if I was building this editor, for example, where if I go to the file menu, there's all the file option, edit menu, select menu, view, go, run, terminal. So there's probably 50 or 60 different commands. So I could have one real long match statement that branches off depending on what the user clicks. And I can make it nice and clean. And every time I add a new function, I just add it to the match statement. So a few things to think about. What seems to be a simple bit of Python can be quite powerful. So do practice. And again, if you like what you see, do subscribe. I appreciate that. And give me any feedback. Thanks a lot and have a great